All right, guys, so I wasn't sure how to announce this. This is something that I've been working on for a really long time, and I mean, there's so much back and forth, so many scheduling conflicts and like different things that were coming up, and I was not sure that it was gonna happen. But after going through like security clearances and all these other things, I am really, really excited to announce my next interview out here in Washington, D.C. And really not that one. Okay, sorry to maybe mislead you or steer you the wrong way. It was actually with my buddy Zvi Band, who runs a company called Contactually that he just sold to Compass Real Estate for over 9-figure acquisition, and just met up with him in his office and had a great conversation. But since we're here, I figured why not come over to the White House and talk about a couple of lessons that we can take away from President Trump. So, first of all, if you have not checked out my interview with Patrick Bet-David, we just dropped it on YouTube recently. It's been on the podcast for a little while. And one of the last things that we talk about is one of the biggest lessons that we can all take away from President Trump. And regardless of what you think about his politics, it's not a political video in the least, just a couple of lessons to learn. So the first thing is what Patrick brought up in our interview, which is the power of reinventing yourself. And regardless of what you think of the guy, you have to give credit to where credit's due and know that somebody in their 70s has mastered the age of social marketing, which is pretty incredible that he was able to do that. And all throughout his career, President Trump has been reinventing himself based on what the next thing was coming out. So he started off in just real estate development, and then he jumped in and became a household name, a celebrity, an icon, and then moved into the presidency. And every step along the way was willing to reinvent himself. And so many people are not willing to do that. You're not willing to just get out and do the next thing that may be a little bit uncomfortable, that you don't really know what you're doing, and you might be an expert over here in this area, but you're just too uncomfortable to go out and try it in a different area. And that was the first thing. The second thing is the power of persuasion. Learning persuasion, marketing and sales, that one thing, and how far that can take you in life based on your ability to wield it almost. And there's a fantastic book on this that I highly recommend from a guy named Scott Adams, who's the creator of Dilbert, which is a comic strip. And he wrote a book called Win Bigly, which is basically a step-by-step outline of what President Trump did during the last election in order to be able to land himself in the White House. And Scott Adams isn't even a politically conservative guy himself, so the book is written from a really non-biased perspective, just as an overarching look at what the power of persuasion really does in our lives. So there was the power of persuasion, there's the ability to reinvent yourself, and then probably the biggest thing, and something that I'm really, really bullish on, especially if you're out there creating content, is the power of a polarizing message. The number one example that I use to show people what having a polarizing message does for you is President Trump. Now, he's obviously insanely polarizing and probably one of like the most polarizing people in the entire world, but it landed him a seat in the White House. And I think that every single person out there that creates content should be looking at their message and figuring out something that they believe themselves personally that allows them to have some sort of a polarizing message where some people are going to agree with you wholeheartedly, but other people are going to disagree with you, and they're going to disagree with you wholeheartedly. So having both of those groups of people combating against each other, and basically just always brings you up in the conversation. And even with the like small amount of political things that are already happening for the next election cycle, the headlines are just always about President Trump. Even the Democratic debate that was on the last couple of days, like that headline was still about how all of those people were talking about attacking President Trump. So he's figured out a way to get himself into the conversation when he shouldn't even be a part of that conversation to begin with. And it's all because he has such a polarizing message. He has super fans over here, people who are like would die for him, die hard supporters, and he has people over here that actually absolutely hate his guts. And the bottom line is, if you're too scared to be polarizing, if you're too scared to step on some people's beliefs to promote your own beliefs, then you will not achieve that level, because you'll just have a bunch of people who kind of like you. And a bunch of people who kind of like you is not the way to build a fan base and build a solid group of an audience that actually cares about what you're doing. So learn to have a polarizing message, learn the power of persuasion, and then also learn to adapt to whatever's happening next. So those are the three things. Make sure to go check out the interview that I did with Patrick Bet-David, where we talk about this at length at the very end of the interview. And we'll catch you later, and we'll see you next time. Peace.